Hey guys, thanks for jumping back into the cryptoverse. Please like this video and subscribe with notifications on if you guys like this content. We typically try to do things a little bit different, look at charts that most people aren't looking at. Today we're actually just going to look at a pretty standard chart. I do like to come back to these from time to time just to show you the broader picture of things, how price movements occur in this space. One of the things that I've been asked a lot is to look at market capitalization of different coins with respect to Bitcoin and when they're going up, when they're going down. How can we best time long-term momentum shifts in the market where we can really maximize our gains during a market cycle. So today we're just going to look at Ethereum, and I've covered some of this before, but we just want to go through what are the times that potentially offer a good risk-reward ratio in terms of seeing increases in alts, or when would it be better just to ride Bitcoin? So one of the things with Ethereum is in the last cycle, it went on a huge run 3 different times. And those runs occur at pretty significant times in Bitcoin's market cycle. So the first time is when Bitcoin holds the 20-week moving average as support. Now, the 20-week moving average is a pretty significant level for Bitcoin. The reason for this being is typically this key area of support has been something that we needed to be in the bull market. I mean, you can see anytime that we're in a bull market, we're holding that 20-week moving average of support, and anytime we're in a bear market, we're always below it. I mean, here you can see we held this 20-week moving average all the way up as support, and then we went into the bear market. So when we hold the 20-week moving average as support, that has historically been when Ethereum, just one time, we only have one data point. Now clearly we can't extrapolate, but it maybe will help some people make more informed guesses than they otherwise would. But once Bitcoin held this 20-week moving average for the first time, and then you can see it held it the entirety of that 2017 or 2016, 2017 run. Once it held the 20-week moving average in January of 2016, that is when, January of 2016, that is when Ethereum had its first really large move. And it occurred over the course of around 2 months, and it went up 1,700%. Now, one of the things I noticed in the cryptocurrency space is that people often, lose track of when these moves occur. It can seem like those mania phases, those strong bull phases, can last a long time, but really most of the gains in the altcoin market just occur a few weeks of the year, and it's easy to miss them. If you're moving your coins around from one coin to another, you can easily miss them. And in fact, in the last mania phase, I mean, there's all sorts of people just they would chase the gains. They would have it in one altcoin. They would see another one really pumping, and they would just move it over there. But typically by that point, it's too late, and you're just feeding into the people that are taking their profits at that time. So how can you prepare for say the next market cycle with Bitcoin? How can you prepare your altcoin portfolio for when Bitcoin is going to be doing or just going through its natural cycle? So the first thing is when Bitcoin holds that 20-week moving average as support. So as I mentioned, once it holds it as support in January of 2016, that is when Ethereum took off. Like, that's when the first time we saw a really large increase. The second time that Ethereum saw large gains, especially with respect to Bitcoin, is when Bitcoin hit its previous all-time high. So Bitcoin had its high here December of 2013 at around $1,100, and then in the first quarter, basically, of 2017, it hit that all-time high again. So if we were to look back at Ethereum and go to the first quarter of 2017, you can see that is when we had another really large move. And if we were just to take a measured move, let's take it from here all the way up, you can see that Ethereum went up around 5,600% in the course of about a year and a half. So far we've covered 2 different times when it has historically been good to be in Ethereum. when Bitcoin holds the 20-week moving average as support, when Bitcoin reaches a previous all-time high. The third time is when Bitcoin reaches kind of a plateau and is really is going to fail to continue to go up. So here you can see, once Bitcoin reached this plateau this is Ethereum. Let's go back to Bitcoin. Once Bitcoin reached this plateau here in early mid-December of 2017, that corresponded to Ethereum having a major move. And if we go over here back to Ethereum, you can see that back in December of 2017, I'm sure many of you guys remember Bitcoin or Ethereum pumping all the way up to $1,400, and that is when it really saw quite a move. And even if we were just to take basically after Bitcoin finished its run right here, so you can see Ethereum kind of plateaued a little bit, and then after Bitcoin finished its run, you can see that Ethereum pumped another, about 100% or so over the course of a month. So really, there's three good times historically that it's been a good time to be in Ethereum. Doesn't mean it's going to repeat. I think there's a good chance it will. It's hard to say exactly when these times will occur, but if we go over and look at the BLX, we just pull up that 20-week moving average, you can see that, there was, a few, not too long ago, we tested that 20-week moving average of support. And unfortunately, we were not able to hold it, and then subsequently, Ethereum did not see a huge gain with respect to Bitcoin. I think if we can get above that 20-week moving average, if Bitcoin can get above the 20-week moving average and hold it as support, I think it's going to be a really great time to be in Ethereum. Now, it's really hard to say when the 20-week moving average, will be held as support. It looks like currently we are, Bitcoin is being somewhat squeezed here, and it might be, going between the 20-week and the 50-week moving averages. If it does go to the 50-week, that'll put it around $7,200, which is not that far-fetched to think Bitcoin could drop there in the short term. But ultimately, what we're going to want to see is Bitcoin getting above that 20-week moving average, and I think that would be a really great time for Ethereum. One thing to note is if we just remove these really quick, historically, just the way the market cycle has worked for Ethereum, investing in the fourth quarter of the year, so around now, and then selling, 2 quarters later, this first or second quarter of the following year, historically has been a really smart move. You can see here, if you had invested in the fourth quarter of 2015, and then sold in the first or second quarter of 2016, you would have seen, this gain right here. You would have gone from around $1 up to around $11. So you would have seen an order of magnitude increase if you had done that. If we fast forward to the following December, so if we go to December of 2016, you can see that if you had invested, you would have got in for around $10. And if you had sold in the first or second quarter of the following year, you could have gone all the way up to $385 or so. Or that's actually in June, but you get the idea. That's still the second quarter. You can see that that would be another really good time to have invested, would be in the fourth quarter of that year. Well, in 2017, we had the same thing. If you had invested in the fourth quarter of 2017, you would have seen a very large run-up going into the first quarter of 2018, and if you had timed it, you would have seen pretty good gains. Even if you had bought in November around this time period, Ethereum went from 286 all the way up to 1400. You could have seen about another decent level of ROI. And then finally, if you were to go to the last quarter of 2018, and you had invested and you sold in the first or second quarter of 2019, you also would have seen a decent return. Now, it's not to say that Ethereum's always going to be seeing a really great run going into, say, the fourth quarter or the first quarter or the second quarter. It's interesting that throughout the market cycles in the past, that is how it's operated. Now, there is some question as to whether we are on a 4-year market cycle or if we are on, a more extended market cycle. Because if you were to go to BLX and if you were just to, if you were to look at the monthly chart, and you just looked at, say, the time between these peaks, they're very different. They're not following just a pretty standard trend where they're equally spaced. If we were just to say take a date range from here to here, you can see it was 884 days, and then if we were to take one from here to here, you can see it was 1491 days. So clearly there's not really, I've mentioned this in a lot of videos, I don't think there's enough proof yet that is a 4-year market cycle. What could be occurring is that the cycles are just getting longer and longer. So when I make videos speculating that 2021 might be a great year, I think it could be a good year, but it's possible that a huge parabolic run-up might not occur until late 2021, 2022, maybe as late as 2023. If you were to take these data points and plot them and fit them with an equation, I think it's like an exponential equation, and then you were to take, say, peak 1, peak 2, and peak 3, I can show you guys this if you're interested, but if you just take the 3 peaks and then extrapolate to the 4th peak, it actually would put us in summer of 2023. So, it's possible that the market cycle is going to be drawn out longer than people are thinking. It's also possible, I think there's still evidence that it could be a 4-year market cycle. It could just be that when we were back here, the market just wasn't really that mature. Because if you look at that logarithmic regression graphs of Bitcoin, it typically, after that halving, it typically goes parabolic. Now, that parabolic move can take a very long time, but historically, after the halving, Bitcoin performs very well. So we'll see what happens with that. So I would, if you're wondering, when's a good time to get into Ethereum? Not that I'm offering financial advice or anything, but historically, Ethereum, it's been a good time to get into Ethereum in the last quarter of the year, and to sell maybe 3 to 6 months later, for say just swing trades. If you're going in it for the long haul, that's fine too. But I think Ethereum has been really showing a lot of strength recently. Even with the recent downward movement in the market, I think Ethereum has shown a lot of strength, and I think there's just a lot of great things happening for Ethereum in the next several months, especially with all these different types of applications being built on Ethereum, decentralized finance, and then of course you have all these different ERC20 tokens. It just seems like that is what people are building on. Ethereum has a ton of developers. I really think, if we were just to look at, say, a monthly chart of Ethereum, to me, I have to assume that we are basically emulating Bitcoin in a sense, because if you just look at what Ethereum has done, this is a monthly scale, it looks pretty similar to what Bitcoin did early on. You can see this huge run up and a peak, and then followed by a bear market. And if here we also have the same idea. It's we have these huge run ups, a bear market, a huge run up, a bear market. Same thing. It's just these run ups can occur so quickly, or where most of the gains are happening in just a few weeks, that these long extended bear markets can be really brutal. But historically, for Bitcoin, it was the people investing down here that were seeing the massive returns. Because if you're waiting, if you're really just going to play the waiting game, you might get lucky, but you also might miss out on these really large moves that can occur very quickly. If we go to an Ethereum Bitcoin graph, you can see how quickly these moves can occur. Here, Ethereum went down with respect to Bitcoin, and then during that first quarter, that 20-week moving average, Bitcoin held it as support, and then Ethereum shot up. Then it came back down. Then Bitcoin hit a previous all-time high, and it shot up, or it shot up to here. And then later on, over here, Bitcoin hit its plateau, and then Ethereum shot up again. So what I'm waiting for is for Bitcoin to hit the previous all-time high, or to hold the 20-week moving average of support, and then to see a potential 10x increase with respect to Bitcoin. I think that move is likely to occur. Just it wasn't that long ago where, you can see, Ethereum it wasn't that long ago where it was valued much higher with respect to Bitcoin. It's just that, Bitcoin was at 3,100 and now it's gone on quite a run, and now it's stabilizing around, or currently it's around 8,000. It might still drop further. But if you look at these times where these spikes occur, it's typically directly following a bear market in terms of what Ethereum's doing with respect to Bitcoin. You can see here we went down and then we spiked up. We had a peak, a double peak, this phase here, a capitulation, and then another peak, down, capitulation. The question is this move here similar to this move here? And then we popped up. We see the little arc here. Okay, we popped up. We see that little arc. And then the question is, are we about to shoot up? Now, I think before we can really answer that, we just have to see what Bitcoin's going to do. And it's quite dubious right now as to what it's going to do. But I would really look to see it holding the 20-week moving average. Now, the funny thing I think in this market is that it's really easy for sentiment to change. I mean, sentiment changes so quickly. If Bitcoin were to go down to say $6,000 tomorrow, people would just start saying crypto is dead. But if Bitcoin were to shoot back up and have another very strong move, where it holds the 20-week moving average, then people are going to just be saying, I told you so. Everyone who's invested in crypto is basically going to appear like geniuses to their friends, because they're going to say, how did you know that the crypto market was going to do that? It looked like to us from the outside that it was just decreasing forever. And then you can say, well, it's just market cycles. If you're going to see gains of 20,000%, then you're going to see losses of 80%. It's just the name of the game of the crypto space. So you just have to get used to that. I think a lot of people just get battle hardened over time, and because of that, you learn that you learn from your mistakes. There's smart money and there's dumb money. The question is, are you the smart money or the dumb money? It's ultimately a zero-sum game. Some people are going to make money, some people are going to lose money. And I can tell you that most of the people who are making money are not the people that are waiting to get in when they see these huge moves. The people that are typically making the most money, life-changing money, is when you're getting in during these times where there's not a lot of chatter, there's not a lot going on in the market, a lot of forums are kind of dead. It's kind of like the stealth phase of the market cycle. That's when you want to get in. You want to get in when no one else is. There's like a saying that bull markets can make you some money, but bear markets can make you rich. I think there's a lot of truth to that, because investing during the bear markets historically have been incredible. There's literally not a single Bitcoin bear market where if you had invested, you would have lost money if you had just held for a few years. There's not one. And I think that's the same story that Ethereum's going to tell. I think if we were to fast forward 10 years, look back, I think that this is just going to be a blip on the radar. And we're going to see something that looks like this, and then we're the ones that are going to be looking at it and saying, yeah, remember when it was down here and we were just terrified that Ethereum was going to zero, crypto was going to zero. No, I don't think that's the case. I think crypto is it's going to be taking the world by storm. It already is. We have all sorts of companies that are developing their own coins. There's even governments are talking about developing their own cryptocurrency. And I think it's not going to be an overnight thing. It's not going to be something where one day the world just accepts cryptocurrency. It's going to slowly integrate into our lives and then we're going to wake up in 10 years and be like, what happened? When did this occur? It's kind of like self-driving cars. I mean, people always think like, well, the self-driving cars are just going to pop up one day. That's not the case. They're being slowly integrated. I mean, think about all the things that cars can do without, parallel parking or staying in their own lanes. I mean, it's a slow process, and then at some point, you wake up and say, when did this happen? That's how technologies, that's how they're introduced into the world. They don't just happen overnight. They're slowly integrated into society until one day you can't imagine life without them. So, I mean, as far as being, for me, and in terms of, what I think is a great, place to potentially hold some of your crypto portfolio. Not that it's financial advice, but I mean, Ethereum, in my opinion, is about as good as you're going to get in terms of your risk reward ratio. Just because, I mean, it's being used by essentially everyone, and I think it's a really great time to get in, and obviously, if you were to buy tonight, it doesn't mean that we're shooting up tomorrow. It just means that if you hold for 2 or 3 years, you're likely going to see a good ROI on that. But clearly, there's no guarantees. All right, guys. I hope this helps you guys kind of get an idea of how at least Ethereum is performing with respect to Bitcoin. We talked about it does well when Bitcoin holds the 20-week moving average. It does well when Bitcoin reaches a previous all-time high, and then it does well once Bitcoin has kind of reached the end of its bull run and is about to start its bear market. Now, the question is are all those indicators or all those things going to be the same the next time around? Well, we don't know. But given the data we have, at least it's something to go off for now, and that's all we can do, and at least that's what I'm working with. So remember, if you guys like this content, please subscribe. I know this was different than most of my videos. If you guys just look at the videos that I have on the channel, most of them have some type of unique chart being shown or some type of fancy animation, and we will be showing a lot of those on this channel. I already have gotten requests to show the Ethereum graph where it shows Ethereum tokens traded as opposed to volume, since volume and price are going to be highly correlated. So I'll put out that video some point this week, and I'm also making videos for those similar videos for Bitcoin and XRP. I know a lot of you guys have been requesting those, so I am listening to you. I am hearing you. I'm making them right now. In fact, the XRP video is being made as or not the video, but the animation is being made as we speak. And one thing I would like to point out is that a lot of people I see talk about how you don't like this coin or that coin. I should remind you that you don't need to like something to make money off of it. A lot of these coins, they behave in their own way with respect to Bitcoin. And are you really want to miss out on something just because you don't like it? I mean, if that's the case, that's fine. I mean, I think there's a case for investing in things that you believe in and that you really see a future in. There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, I primarily stick to that. But there definitely are times where you can take advantage of a market signal, which could help you increase your holdings in other places. So just keep that in mind. But yeah, so later this week I will be making some videos for Bitcoin and XRP, and maybe a few other coins. So just stay tuned for that. Remember to subscribe to the channel if you guys like the content, and I will see you next time. Bye.